This is going to be the final update to the build, and it is update number 5, which I have also reworked all the POB step-by-step progressions, adjustment to my original POBs to make it easier for you guys to follow. In this version of the build, we are doing over 100 million DPS, going with a more comfy setups to farm T16, T16.5, and even T17s, but there's some caveat to that. The problem with farming T17 is that you have to kill the boss to be profitable, and while this build or this version have tons of damage, you will run into a problem because the boss will have phase and some of the boss is harder to kill than the others. What I realized when I was farming T16.5 and T17 is that it's really hard to build defensive into a totem build because innately we're not that tanky, so we have to rely on the totem playstyle to just farm the maps. But more on that later. Just rest assured, I have been farming extremely rippy T16.5, T17s, and we completed the map just fine with a few deaths here and there. Before we get into the POB, the crafting, the progression path, I want to catch you guys up with what we have been doing. And the first thing you might have noticed is that right now we don't have any energy shields. This is because I have got rid of energy shields and go back to the agnostic setups. We are using Dance of the Offers. Agnostic, in my opinion, is much more comfy in mappings, especially in maps with ground effect. It renders you completely immune to stuff like dot, poison, or even bleed because you have so much mana regen, which convert into life regen at certain extents because we are using Agnostic. It allows you to run damage on full life, which is a pretty good link for our damage. And with this setups, we are getting suppressions from essentially all from Green Nightmare. So in order to get the setups running and get the full ailment avoidance, you want to run Green Nightmare jewels in this particular sockets, and you want to tattoo yourself with the cold resistance. We only have ailment avoidance on the shields right now, and you can fix the rest of your suppressions with a Watcher's Eye, and it's pretty cheap actually. We are using the Watcher's Eye mods with chance to suppress spell damage while affected by grace, which means that we also swap from a haste setups into a grace setup. This adds a lot more EHP into our characters, which also pair pretty well with Kintsugis, and Kintsugi is a pretty good way for you to prevent one-shots in map. This gives you 35% less damage taken if you have not been hit recently, so the first hits that you take in map, you have a chance to prevent one-shots, and you run this with grace to give you even more evasion rating if you have been hit recently. Now, you guys probably know how to craft a 6-link on a corrupted body armor, but also it is very important for you to get this corrupted and get its 6-link, and also get it with 5 off color, which means that it is almost impossible and very expensive for you to craft this with 5 off color. You want to buy this body armor corrupted, and you want to use Tainted Chromatic Orb to get the 5 off color on this body armor. And I just realized I don't have 20% quality on this, so I'm going to fix that. It's going to add a lot more evasions. The next thing you might have noticed is that I have got rid of the Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh setups and go back to the original Ritual of Awakening setups. And because we are no longer using energy shields, we don't need that Sanctuary of Thought setups anymore. This means that you can actually run the setups on a less budget and still doing a lot of damage. And if I were to change something, I would definitely add more Chaos Resistance to the build. We are over capped on Lightning Resistance by a lot. So probably getting a belt with Lightning Res, and I'm going to run the Chaos Resistance on the Coiling Whisper as well because we don't care about poison as much. So yeah, this should cover everything that I have changed up until this point. So let's talk a little bit on what kind of maps can this build run. And I'll tell you right now that personally, I run all T16 and modded maps without any issues. If you have walk elemental damage, at level 5 you are immune to elemental damage. If you are running no regens, you can press your life and mana flash just fine. The less recovery rate of life and yes is not a problem if you have the Seething Flask. If you are running monster reduce extra damage from crits, it's completely fine because we do insane amount of damage. So you can kind of take this, but if you don't have enough damage, then maybe consider to take it off. So I would definitely recommend you guys to go make your own rejects at this point to run the kind of maps that you want to run. So for T16.5 and T17, it's more like an annoyance if you don't want to run certain mods, rather than you cannot run it. But you cannot run Elemental Reflect if you don't have Walk LA level 5. This is more annoyance mod, annoyance. You probably don't want to run this, it's really annoying. The same thing, action speed, like you definitely can run it because your totems just shoot. But again, if you really don't want to be extremely slow, you probably don't want this because we summon totems every few seconds. This is more of an annoyance. You probably don't want to run this because your merc can randomly die if you run this, so yeah. And beside that, like literally we just run everything. All the damage modifiers, I just run everything. You can get some random death here and there, but for the most part, your totems will just kill everything. So for the actual rejects that I'm running, I'm going to just be avoiding these 3 mods right here. And so that's pretty much it for my T17 and T16 mods. I have also go back and completely revamp and update the full POB so that you guys can have a clear path of progressions. You are still going to go through the campaign, have a transition to map setup where you will be able to reach about 2 million DPS, and then we are going to upgrade into a mercenary setups, and it's very important you follow this path because it's going to give you the best bang for your buck in terms of DPS upgrades. Mercenary is just insanely strong for this setups. So if you go from transition to map, you want to aim for a power siphon of the ARCHMAGE swaps, which I have added here. You need a +1 minimum power charge setups here at Azure Foible, Dance of the Offer, Breast Stillers, and Wilmas. And you also want to focus on your merc gears. In this setups, I just want to point out that I actually have haste, and to be able to avoid ailments, you want to run Sign of the Eaters on the merc gear. And on the Soul Eater setup, which is essentially my current setups, you want to go from this setups straight into the Soul Eater setups, which is going to add the Dust Ring, and you have to do this on the left slot because someone showed me a POB where some guys actually have it on the other slot, which means that you actually increase skill effect duration and going to mess up the Soul Eater setups. So in this setups, you want to change your merc gear to Singularity because at this point you have enough gears. And so yeah, it's just my current setups. Just check out the previous sections on how I cap my spell suppressions and ailment avoidance chance. But if you cannot do that, just make sure your merc is in the previous setups where you use Sign of the Sin Eater to prevent elemental ailments. And in here, I also have the crafting pretty much written out. I'm gonna show you how to do it after this. But yeah. And the Mageblood setups is essentially the ultimate endgame setups. And if you have money to invest, I recommend you to go for this. And it would be upwards 600 plus divine to do this. Just because Mageblood Spalin is insanely expensive. We are also going to put a more expensive wand craft, and we are looking for something like this in the endgame. So yeah, if you go for like the ultimate Mageblood setups, you are going to be insanely tanky in the sense that max block is just going to carry you through most part in the endgames, and we still rocking like over 100 million DPS in the setups. So you will be able to farm pretty much all content with that. Just be mindful that going for Mageblood setup is 600 plus divine, and it's going to be even more expensive if you're trying to craft the expensive one as well. So good luck with that. And just for reference, I also added the map rejects over here for you guys that are too lazy to actually make your own rejects. So I hope this POE will cover everything you need to know on the build, and let's get into the crafting sections. For the crafting, I'm going to talk about the wand craft. Since it's a little bit different this league, we can't really use the recombinator anymore. So yeah, for the wands, you want to use inbuilt one. It's probably one of the best base. We have spell damage, we have attacks, more attacks per second is good. It's scaled pretty well with Soul Eaters, and crit chance is not that bad to get in the late game, so imbued one base it is. we are going to go for the cheaper craft first. For both versions of the wand craft, you are going to start off with a Fractures, T1 spell damage, and mana first, and you can either buy the space or craft the space yourself. At this point in the game, it's probably going to be better for you to fracture this one yourself. So it has to be a 4-mod items, and you are going to slam Fracture up on this until you hit the spell damage and maximum mana. So just do it a few times here. Once you have these fractures, we are going to essence craft with the wool essence, and I highly recommend you to do it on a T1, or if you really are tight on budget, you can do it on T2. So yeah, spam it with T1 wool essence until you hit mana and either crits or attack speeds. And you don't have to hit a high tier mana with this case because yeah, it's just not that visible to do like anything up from T8 or like T7 will be fine. And you can kind of see here we hit mana and attack speed, but kind of unlucky we don't have open suffix. For this particular one, I'm going to try and YOLO annul this and hope it hits. So yeah, in here we actually hit an open suffix, and from here on you can actually finish the craft with a bench craft for crits. So for example, right here we have attack speed. I'm going to finish this with a crit multi bench craft. And this would be the one. So like for the cheap craft, you are going to get a high tier spell damage, and with maximum mana, attack speed, and crit multi. Now, if you have a little bit more budget and you want to try to get a better one from this position right here, you can do a prefix cannot be changed. And this is going to cost you 2 divine because you cannot beastcraft metamods because we have prefix done first. You can do a prefix cannot be changed in these positions, and you're going to do Orb of Annulment, and hopefully you hit the fire damages like that. From these positions, you are going to do another 50-50 by slamming this with an Veil Exalted Orb. And we missed it, but ideally you would hit the crafted mod, and here you can craft a charge, any of the charge mod or dot multi, and unveil for crits or attack speeds or something, right? So for example here you get the crit multi mod, which is pretty decent, and there's another options, which is the crit chance, which is going to be this mod right here. We have crit chance with dex and int. Then you're going to finish the craft with a bench craft for crits or crit multi, depending on what unveil that you got. This is going to be a pretty decent one for the mid-budget version of the build. With a one like this, you are going to get about 20 to 30% damage upgrade over the Piscator. Next up is going to be the expensive wand craft, and keep in mind that this can go up to like 100 divine craft if you are unlucky. We are going to use the same base, and we are going to use Essence of Woe again to spam and try to get a very high tier mana roll, ideally T3+. So to save time, I'm just going to add the mana roll itself, so I'm just gonna remove this mod right here, and then I'm going to add the mana modifiers. So in my opinion, tier 3 should be decent enough because you're also trying to get that with an open suffix as well. What I mean is by this point, you probably have at least a few suffix. So you need at least one open suffix, and you can craft prefix cannot be changed on this. And we are going to reforge crit with the harvest crafting. The odds to hit a T1 crit, either of the crits, is going to be like 1 out of 8 ones, so it's not that bad. And each attempt is going to take you 2 divine. So yeah, you hit crit multi, but it's low tier, so you're going to craft this again and try to hit a higher tier. And so yeah, we are just doing this until you hit something like this. So this is a tier 2 mod, which is very good. And at this point, we are going to do prefix cannot be changed again, and we are going to try and hit a Veil Exalted Orb on this, and I hit. So you can either craft dot multi, or you can craft charge on this. So any of the charge mod on this, and we are going to Unveil for either attack speed or crit chance with the stats mod. So yeah, this is a fail. I'm going to try Unveil again. And this is probably the best outcome. You get attack speed, Unveil, and we are going to finish with a crit chance mod. So crit chance, crafting bench right here. And yeah, this is probably one of the best one that you can craft this league, and using this method if you get somewhat lucky. And another thing is, if you fail the Unveil, you can always do prefix cannot be changed and go for the annulled, and hopefully you hit the veil mods, and then you can do the veil exalted slam one more time to try and hit again and finish the craft. But otherwise, if you hit the crit multi, you are going to go back to reforge crit one more times. And overall, yeah, it's just very costly if you get unlucky. So good luck with the craft. Yeah, so that's about all I have for the build. I think it's still going to be an insane league starter if you're starting the league late, and we get an insane amount of damage this league with the additional of the Mercenary Doryani setups, which is quite broken. And we are also double dipping benefits from Soul Eater, which is just two of the best tech that was added this league. This build is capable of farming T16.5 pretty good, again T17 with a few caveats that you want to really ignore bosses with phase, because this build is not built to be tanky enough for those boss. But if you can do mechanics with 100 million DPS and almost 100% uptime, you can do uber bossings, you can farm sanctums. Totems is actually pretty good in sanctums. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.